typical process to purchase a property in Australia is that a buyer will sign a contract and pay a deposit, which is usually 10% of the purchase price. The vendor will then sign the contract, which completes exchange. When the property is nearing completion, the buyer will be notified and asked to prepare the balance of the purchase price. When the property is ready to hand over to the buyer, the settlement day will be scheduled. At settlement, the buyer will pay the balance of the purchase price and the vendor will provide all documents required to transfer ownership of the title to the buyer. The buyer's physical presence is never required for the legal process or settlement. On settlement day, if the funds have been paid, we will send you an email and confirm that settlement has taken place, that you can arrange for the collection of the keys to your property.
Funds received in a trust account will be held on behalf of you, the purchaser, meaning that they can only be dealt with when you give written authority to the account holder. In this way, your deposit paid to the vendor will be held safely in their lawyer's trust account and cannot be released until the completion of the settlement. Prior to the settlement, we will advise you on the balance required to settle, and you will need to prepare for the balance to be transferred to our trust account, in which case the trust funds will be released to the vendor at settlement with your written authority. Foreigners can buy properties in Australia, but there are some restrictions to consider. Generally, overseas investors who are non-residents in Australia can only buy off the plan or newly developed property. Temporary residents will normally be allowed to purchase only one established dwelling to live in as their home, but they will need to sell the property within 3 months from when it ceased to be their principal place of residence.
Any legal entity can be registered as the owner of an Australian property. Commonly, this means either a natural person, an Australian company, or a foreign company. Where a property is registered under a company instead of a natural person, the property will always be considered an investment property, and certain stamp duty benefits that can only be received by owner-occupiers cannot be claimed accordingly. We recommend that you speak to an accountant with regards to the tax implications of holding an investment property using a company.
If 2 or more people acquire property together, they can either register as joint tenants or tenants in common. The essential differences are, for joint tenancy, all joint tenants have equal interest in the property, and if one joint tenant dies, the other remaining joint tenants inherit the deceased tenant's interest in the property. This is called the survivorship. If 2 or more people co-own a property as tenants in common, each of them owns the property in defined shares that they can sell or give them away in a will, and there's no right of survivorship. There are also tax differences between joint tenancy and tenants in common arrangements. Therefore, you should always consult your accountant about the tax implications of each type of ownership.
Most off-the-plan contracts will include terms that do not allow the sale or advertisement for sale of a property prior to settlement. However, in some states such as Victoria, even where a contract contains such terms, a purchaser can on-sell a property by doing a nomination of the contract to a nominee. Nomination provides a subsequent purchaser with all the rights and liabilities of the contract. Please be aware that where there is additional consideration being paid by the nominee to the purchaser will be required to pay stamp duty for the nomination. Please be aware that different rules apply to different states, particularly with regards to the timing and amount of stamp duty payable. If you are a foreign resident, you will require government approval from the Foreign Investment Review Board of Australia for your purchase, which we can assist you with. At Madison Marcus, we'll guide you through each step of the legal process and provide you with all-inclusive fixed-fee services. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have and are always only one telephone call or email away.